bite you. It needs to retract your body.
Wow,
Okay, boys, what is it?
it's a leptodactylidae.
In 1992, my friend Neil Rogers took a picture of this sinkhole down in the Chicky-Bull Forest. After looking further on the maps, I realized that this was a real anomaly that was out there, one of the biggest sinkholes in a series of 49 that are in that karst massif area. We gave this report to Rafael Manzanero, the CEO of FCD, which is the Friends for Conservation and Development, and said, well, it's such a hard place to get into. If we're going to do this expedition, let's go for it. You know, let's enable a baseline study to be made, and do the support logistics so that we can do it right. And he went along with the concept.
In general, the Chicky-Bull has been identified as a key conservation, biodiversity conservation area. No? So that recognition tells us that in whole its biodiversity, birds, plants, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, it's very important. So we need to conserve this particular landmass that actually the three protected areas, Caracol, the Forest Reserve, and the National Park, make almost 8% of the landmass of Belize. So it is a huge protected area in Belize.
What I know of the Chicky-Bull Forest is it's for its limestone features, I think is one of the most important aspects. Certain plants have an affinity for limestone, and you'll find certain groups of plants, trees, shrubs, and vines that have tend to favor the area and do quite well. What's interesting is the lack of water, surface water. So how these plants can adapt and survive in these basically somewhat desert-like conditions is interesting.
And because of the limestone that we have in the Chicky-Bull Forest, then we get this karstic environment. The karstic environment actually leads to the formation of numerous cave systems, and when caves collapse, then they tend to form this type of geological features which we refer to as sinkholes. Here we have the Nohokchen sinkhole, which is one of the largest sinkholes that we have in the country of Belize. No? Most of the Chicky-Bull Forest, if we look at these terms in this geology, we have volcanic deposits and limestone, which is this one here.
There's a series of sinkholes in the area of the Chicky-Bull Forest or the Chicky-Bull National Park, but these ones here are south of the Chicky-Bull cave system, so it could be part of that. So it's believed that probably it was a cave system, you know, and then the ceiling collapsed, creating the sinkhole. And so there's two of them nearby, Nohokchen, and there's another one more to the west. And today, this time when we go into the sinkholes, it's very hard to find any evidence of that cave system because of the ceiling blocking any entrances. So we cannot really go through, but more likely would have been part of this whole Chicky-Bull cave system.
Well, the cenotes are a collapsed limestone cave, and this one in particular is spectacular for its near sheer vertical walls all the way around. There's only one little spot where we're descending where there's almost a connection with the upper surface, so there's about 30 feet of drop to get into that. But in this cenote in particular, you have the full range. You have one part on the west that has a ledge that hangs over maybe 50 feet or so, and the vegetation there is different from anything we've seen either above the cenote or elsewhere in the cenote, because the rain doesn't fall there very often. So the leaf litter has accumulated to a meter deep or perhaps more in some places because there's no water and no fungal action to break down the fallen leaves. And then immediately as you start dropping away from that wall or going around to the other part of the cenote where there's no overhanging ledge, you notice the increase in humidity and water availability, and the leaf litter breaks down much more quickly. So it just becomes, it goes from basically a thorny desert scrub into a lush tropical habitat. We just got down to the bottom of the sinkhole, the lowest point, and it's really quite spectacular for the plants that specialize in deep shade. So you have a lot of ferns, a lot of bryophytes, which are the flat thalloid structures that are all along the walls. But a little bit surprised at the number of lianas hanging down, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more epiphytes. I can see some beautiful orchids right above us all along the branches, so it's pretty cool. And then as you drop down into the very center of the cenote, it's quite steep, and it all angles down to one part at the bottom that's full of large boulders, house-size boulders or large truck-sized boulders, and a very unique fern grows down there, and nowhere else that we've seen up above the cenote or anywhere else. It's called a filmy fern, and they're very tiny ferns. They look like mosses. So that was interesting. So down there we also found some peperomias, which is another kind of a plant, very abundant on the rocks. So it's just a remarkable site, very different in the center of the hole than anywhere else in this whole region.
Now, on the terms of its biological uniqueness, well, at the beginning we had the idea that it will be very unique in its terms, that it will be an isolated patch of forest that we have at the bottom here. But when we start to look into detail at the forest, then we start to realize that there are many actually connections with the outside forest. Now that means that there is some degree of migration between species, but that doesn't mean that we may not find any endemic or unique species that dwells down at the bottom of the sinkhole. No? So this expedition has basically collected a baseline data of what we have down there. In terms of amphibians and reptiles, the area is small, but then I have recorded over 12 species of reptiles already. Amphibians, I have recorded 5, so that means it has a unique richness of these organisms. No? In terms of plants, well, the guys working with the plants, they have mentioned that uniqueness as well. No? It's a leptodactylidae. Usually these are referred to as the leaf litter frogs. They don't need the water to reproduce. What they will do is to dig a little hole, put some saliva there, and lay their eggs. So there is no like tadpole stage in them. Yeah, short one. Yeah, a couple of these, and that's it. So this guy is stuck here in the sinkhole. There's no way for him to come out. Also, in this type of environment, we tend to have a very unique species of bird, which is the orange-breasted falcon, and we were hoping to have evidence of the orange-breasted falcon here, and actually we have 2 individuals that have made the sinkhole their home. On the west wall here, we suspect that there is a nest. We actually see a nest there, but it is not active at the moment. It's not their breeding season. This bird is unique in the sense that it is a species very high in conservation value. It is a threatened species. So finding a nest is like finding a diamond.
Wow, look at this. This is a nice work from the ancient Maya. We could see the nice cut blocks and how they put these smaller rocks to keep them in place. This is part of a major structure. This wall here, we have a plaza at the top and a structure going to the north, and we have another structure going to the west. The Chiquibul is dotted with all of these Maya sites around. There are also lots of these caves and sinkholes which they also use for ritual and ceremonial activities. And it's amazing to go across this forest and finding stuff like this, you know. It shows you all the work they put into, you know, all the effort, you know, the people moving through this jungle.
What we didn't realize until we really got there was the archaeological significance that would be found. There were two temples on the east and west side of this, on the rim of this thing, which obviously were used for ceremonial purposes. And then there was, on the way going, we found temple sites and plazas and the terracing, the agricultural terracing, as we were traversing our way to the bottom of this site before we took the climb up to go in, was everywhere.
To the west side, down at the bottom, there is a platform that they constructed. You could see the walls on the side, has a nice floor, plastered floor. There's some parts setting at the top, and there's some small caves down below. There's some pottery in one area. We found about 5 pots. Down below there's other broken pottery, but if you go all around that west rim coming up to the north, to the east, there's a lot of small niches where you have like a piece of a metate, which is a grinding stone. We also found other vessels. But one of the most amazing finds was to the west side. There's a cave which is about somewhere around probably 70 feet along the cliffside, and we took us 2 days to get to this cave. We had to rig our system, ropes, and have some anchor points along the wall. And the cave is quite small. It doesn't go very far in. Probably we're just looking at around 10 feet deep by some 7 feet wide. And inside there were 4 vessels. One was on sideways facing out. The mouth was facing out of the cave. Then we had 2 standing up and 1 upside down. Also at the entrance you could see some work that they did. They lay out some rocks, kind of like what we see around here, you know, just lay them there, make a platform. And more likely would have been food offering that they were doing. And so it was a great find. I mean, we never thought we would find stuff like that, especially along the wall. They would have had a hard time placing it there, and we had a rougher time getting there to check it out. So the cave, I said it was a hard time getting to, but it shows the importance to the Maya. The caves had this representation as a portal to the underworld, which is referred to as Xibalba. So caves were portal to the underworld, and they believed that Chak, the rain god, resided in the underworld. So the Maya started, according to experts, you know, the Maya went through a period of drought in this region, and they heavily depend on rainwater. And that's it's hard to find rain like surface water here. Most of the water goes underground because of the karst, and therefore the Maya would come into these areas and offer, you know, sometimes food offering, bloodletting, in some cases human sacrifice. In some cases you could find remains of, you know, of humans, and other offerings they did, you know, the burning of incense. But this was asking, you know, Chak for rain. So when you look at all of this work, you know, for us getting into this sinkhole, which was pretty tough, getting in there and climbing up to the cave, you wonder, you know, how or they did it. You know, why go through all that trouble of doing all of this hard work, you know, the offerings and stuff like that. And that just shows the importance, you know, these caves, the whole area, to the Maya, especially for rain. And eventually it's believed that's what led to the demise of the Maya civilization, and they abandoned these areas here.
To prepare to do this, because of the remote nature of this place, we had to do several recce's because we knew that there was a shortage of water in the area. So we made our first recce in August of 2014, and at that point in time it was the end of the dry season, and we didn't really have much luck finding sustainable holes of water. That's a whole nother story, but it was a good expedition. But on that trip we realized that it was going to be more than just what we wanted to do to explore this thing. There was some there's been some incursion that's been creeping in over the last 20 years by people who are disadvantaged in Guatemala trying to make a living, and the area that we were down in had been severely impacted.
The Chiquibul is blessed with a lot of natural resources. We have huge densities of timber species. We have a small understory palm that we commonly call the chate. That is one species that is targeted the most by people crossing the border from Guatemala into the Chiquibul forest. No? So I like to say that the chate, the illegal extraction of the chate, is like the root of all evils in the Chiquibul. Because when the people cutting chate are wandering throughout the Chiquibul, at the same time they are looking for other natural resources. No? So illegal extraction of chate, even though it is targeting a specific plant, has other impacts on the forest. No? So if we rank the threats that the Chiquibul have, we start with deforestation all along the western border, which is actually over there. So deforestation is a big issue. Once the forest is gone, everything is gone. Plants, animals, they're removed or completely wiped out from the earth. No? So that is happening at the present moment. We have almost 4,000 hectares of forest that have been cleared by Guatemalans to plant their corn or beans. So it's a system of milpa farming. Following deforestation, we have illegal logging. No? And the illegal loggers, again, Guatemalans come here to target either mahogany or cedar. These are the two species of hardwoods, precious woods, that have very high prices. No? They could get up to maybe 8 or if it is mahogany, $8 per board foot of timber. After timber, the illegal logging, then we have gold panning. Gold panning is more localized activity, but it's very destructive to the environment as well. No? So from where we are, gold panning is happening further south in an area we call Ceibo Chico, Ceibo Grande. And what actually the people involved in gold panning will do is to take an iron bar or something and start to dig all on the riverbeds. No? So by digging on the riverbed, you are damaging the flow of the river and causing sedimentation that will contaminate the watershed farther down. Apart from throwing trash and cutting trees, doing a lot of mess. No? And all these activities, illegal extraction of chate, illegal logging, gold panning, milpa farming, have come and do illegal hunting. They depend a lot on the forest to get their proteins. So they will hunt for birds, they will hunt for mammals. So the population of these large animals are being impacted at the moment as well.
With the support logistics that were required to do this, we knew that we had to open a road for multiple reasons. One, so FCD could go down and patrol that area with their rangers. So that was a real need. And the second was to be able to drive as close as we could to the bottom of this mountain where the sinkhole was down in the center of it.
So FCD is a co-manager of the Chiquibul Forest. This whole area of the Chiquibul National Park actually, and the whole area of the Chiquibul Forest, along with the Caracol area, we're looking at around 7% of the national territory. And my main focus is to look at the Chickabull Cave system, which is 55 kilometers of cave, and mainly looking at the human impact. You know, we have people coming through the area, and some of these caves also have water, and so people going to collect water, and at the same time, you know, they might look around and they might have pottery, and sometimes they might not take anything, but they will just trample around and break some of this pottery, which is great information for us. You know, our ancestors were in the area and they use them for ritual and ceremonial activities. So we're right here at the Maya site. There's about 10 structures in the area. Some of them about 10 feet, others could be more than that. A lot of them have been looted, as you can see here. We have a looter's trench. So the Shateros not only do what they do, but they are looking for artifacts, anything they can find in this. And so we're losing a lot of our heritage here. So it's one of those things that is very hard to keep up with, you know, and we could find some of those old campsites within the plaza area. So that tells us that they've been camping here for several days, and you can see some trash that are left behind. These places, there's a lot of human threat. You know, we have people, we're not very far from Guatemala, and we have people coming from that area. We also maybe other people coming around, and a lot of times these guys are just either hunting or poaching, you know, like the macaw parrots in the area, non-timber extraction, you know, logging, and one of the main threats is looting. You know, these guys will go into these caves, take away these pots, you know, take them out, try to sell them. You know, they're always looking for probably jade, any of this kind of stuff. Because the Maya tradition, when they buried their ruler or the elite, you know, they would bury them with their belongings. And so usually you could find polychrome vessels, you find jade and stuff like that. And so this is what people are looking after, and they wouldn't worry twice to just rip down a wall like this, you know, and then all of this information is lost.
What is the significance of this big hole in the ground, this karst hole in the ground with a forest at the bottom of it? It's a pretty place, etc., but what really is the significance of it? I think for us as explorers, we just want to go to see, and then once you're there, you realize, like I said, the magnificence of this thing, and you realize that it's a part of the bigger show, which is the in this case, it's the Chickabull National Park. When I first saw this sinkhole, it was everything and more than I expected. The setting, of course, in the middle of the Chickabull was with all this territory around it that's just magnificent karst, massive and rugged terrain. It was just this big wall all the way around this hole with a forest down in it, and takes your breath away to see something like that, because you know, it's like you're standing there and, oh my God, what am I doing here? How am I so lucky to be here to see this? And it's just was an incredible sight, and we realized that, yeah, definitely this bared a lot more than just coming, looking at, going down and going home.
And this expedition was amazing. I mean, I couldn't believe myself when I walked up for the first time up this hillside and then just coming across this huge sinkhole. I had been seeing it on maps, I had some aerial footage, but nothing beats like coming here and having a look at it. It's so amazing, it's so huge. I mean, it's just, to me, it was mind-blowing. Even though I had been to other ones, but every time you come up and you see this sinkhole, man, it's really, really amazing. We were not sure about what we're going to find there, and at one point we were thinking whether, you know, the Maya could have used it and stuff like that. But going down there and seeing all the stuff, we realized this is very important, and we need to protect this area.
Getting the word out is important for us, because we're in the hopes that all of the information that was gathered in this expedition can help to promote the FCD and bring a knowledge and an awareness of the chicky bull and the conservation efforts and why it is worth saving and taking care of. So the knowledge that will be and the data that will be extrapolated from this expedition in the different areas will hopefully be one of the cornerstones of making the Chicky Bull Park a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
If people don't come and see the beauties that we have here, Naho-Chen, Natural Arch, Cabal, or any of the other wonders that we have in the Chicky Bull, then they will never understand and come to appreciate what we have. And if we do not appreciate something, we don't have value for that particular natural resource or any object. And if we don't value our natural resources, then there is no incentive to conserve them. So bringing people out here, we need to improve infrastructure, all these things. But if we have that in place, we could easily open the site, Natural Arch, and have people enjoy, so that they could appreciate nature. And being with all these threats and all these pressures that we have in protected areas as a whole, not only the Chicky Bull, but all protected areas in Belize and across the globe, they are being threatened.
We need to protect not only plants, animals, stuff like that, but this is part of our culture, heritage, and therefore, as part of being, part Maya, to me, is very important that is protected, because this shows to the people of Belize. We always talk about the Maya living in Belize and stuff like that, but it's more evidence of the Maya just covering this whole area, and also for future generation, for my children to be able to come and see this.
If we have our population, all Belizeans, saying we understand why these people are trying to conserve this forest, then they will fight, They will want their government to do something to keep protected areas under protection.